Network Entertainment.
The passing rate that time is roughly naglalaro lang siya from 75 to 64 to 75%. And after pandemic, yun nga napansin namin after pandemic, ang pinaka-latest is nag-down siya into 51%, which is kinda intriguing kasi anong problema? Is it the pandemic that brought this phenomenon, or is it really a crisis of exam preparedness among senior high schools teachers or schools?
Welcome to Behind the Science podcast. New episode every Thursday at 7 p.m.
Magandang araw mga kapwa-scientista at welcome sa isa na namang episode ng Behind the Science podcast. Ako si Paul Flores, ang inyong host, and our guest is a mathematics researcher and educator with expertise in transforming complex data into actionable insights. He obtained his Bachelor of Science in Mathematics, major in Research Statistics from Davao Oriental State University, graduating magna cum laude. He then joined the faculty of the same university and now pursuing his Master of Science in teaching, major in Mathematics at De La Salle University, Manila. So without further ado, let's all welcome Mr. Dieter Montejo. So welcome sa podcast, Dieter. So ngayon ang topic natin today ay isang paper na na-publish ni Dieter sa Davao Research Journal at tungkol ito sa pagtingin ng mga factors na nakakaapekto sa performance ng student kapag kumukuha sila ng entrance exam sa university. And the usual, bago natin pag-usapan yung naging research ni Dieter, kilalanin muna natin siya as well as yung naging journey niya as a scientist. So Dieter, given naman siguro na karamihan sa mga estudyante, karamihan sa mga tao ay ayaw sa math. Pero ikaw, math yung pinili mo na kurso nung college. So bakit yun ang nahiligan mo?
Thank you, sir, for having me as your guest for today. I am Dieter. Sa sinabi niyo po, I am a mathematics enthusiast. Before, hindi ko talaga hilig yung math kasi mahirap siya in the first place. It's too abstract. It's too disconnected sometimes in real life. But then, na-embrace ko siya throughout nag-senior high ako, nag-college. Because I have this passion for data, yung information or yung data. I love solving equations, translating data into actionable findings or recommendation. Tas talaga siya, parang 40 ko talagang mag-compute manually. Tas yun nga, na-immerse ako from practical research 1 and 2 sa senior high. Tas nag-transition siya sa college na may mga softwares or may mga applications na iraran yung data para mag-generate ng specific values or specific numbers. And that numbers would suffice or would be interpreted as a findings or maybe a notable findings. And dun ko siya na-realize na mahal ko yung math because it's an inspiration from mahilig sa data to something na bakit kaya explore ko yung area na mahina ako before sa elementary at saka high school. So yeah, it's a challenge. And alam mo naman sa university, sa State U, may admission and retention policy na yung mga board courses is madaling mapuno during admission. So I pursued BS Biology pero unfortunately na-closean ako ng slot. So nag-open up yung potential ni math na
napunta sa math.
Napunta sa math kasi imagine out of, I think, in our batch na 5,000, first day pa lang, puno na yung biology, engineering, nursing, mga ganong course. And yung mga available na lang is mathematics, accountancy, na pwede na rin. Pwede na rin. So out of pressure, and of course, tiningnan ko yung availability nung DST scholarship kung mag-fall ba si BS Mathematics. So, nag-fall naman siya.
DOST scholar ka na nung
Yeah,
nung college.
undergrad.
Okay.
Then, nag-fall siya sa priority courses nila. So I enrolled it even though I have I have minimal lang na foundation in math because I came from not a regional science high school but a normal high school lang.
Gusto ko balikan yung sinabi mo kanina na nagka-interest ka sa math dahil sa research experience sa senior high. Tama ba? Yung
yung quantitative study, practical research too. Yung study namin about, I think, it's a study on the local perception of minors in our localities. So it's a
sa
research.
perception nila sa math. Ganun.
Hindi. Parang perception nila in terms of the positive and negative impact of mining siguro. That time. Kasi way back 2019, nag-open up yung industrial opportunity sa aming lugar. May mga mining companies na inallow ng LGU to operate. And one of the positive impact that time is, nag-boom yung trabaho. May mga financial assistance sa mga localities. And the adverse effect that time is yung environmental impact ng mining. So we want to know the local perceptions in terms of the positive and the negative impact of mining. And it's a survey research. So nag-field talaga kami, nag-survey kami doon with the help of our practical research 2 teacher.
Tapos doon na parang dahil kailan mo gumawa ng statistical analysis doon sa survey data, doon mo na siya na-appreciate.
Na-appreciate ko siya kasi unang-una, in theory, we need to have it manual computation. Tapos introduce nung teacher namin na may mga software pala or applications na mas okay siyang gamitin. Mas madali siya. And of course, it's mas okay siya sa time.
Nung nag-college ka na, ano yung kumbaga parang masasabi mo na misconception mo dati sa math kasi nga 'di ba hindi mo siya na-enjoy dati nung elementary and early days mo sa high school, tapos nung nag-college ka na, ano yung naging perception mo na sa math na kumbaga parang misconception mo dati tapos naliwanagan ka nung kinuha mo na siya nung college?
Siguro sir yung idea na ang math is somehow disconnected sa real life kasi it's too abstract. It's too theoretical na geometry, trigonometry, parang mga formulas, shapes, mga ganun. And pag nagtungtong na ako ng college, doon ko na-realize na meron palang applied mathematics. So gagamitin yung concepts and theories to solve certain problems like yung statistics, actuarial mathematics, and mga predictive modeling. So doon na open up yung idea na hindi talaga abstract yung math. May math talaga na na pwede mong i-relate sa real life situation. Like gagamitin mo siya to solve certain phenomenon, gagamitin mo siya to optimize certain problems. Tas sa college kasi alam mo naman sa State U, hindi spoon feeding. So we have this idea na ibibigay ng instructors or professor yung certain activities. Then it's up to the students to explore. Ang gusto na lang ng mga professors namin is, we have to present, we have to communicate our findings. So mas na-challenge ako.
Very common sentiment yung yung sinabi mo na very abstract yung math na halimbawa para saan ba yung quadratic formula?
Oo, magagamit mo yun sa
negative. Ginugol ko na. Negative b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Parang yun. Saan ba ginagamit yan?
Yung finding ng roots.
Ikaw tatanungin kita medyo impromptu to na on the spot kita. Saan ba ginagamit yung yung mga quadratic formula na to? Hindi ko rin alam saan siya ginagamit.
Hindi ko rin alam kasi wala siyang hindi ko naman sinasabing walang practical application, pero it's a foundational kasi na concepts. In order to elevate in higher mathematics, you have to be familiar with the foundation. Like for example, yung simpleng linear equation or yung y is equal to mx plus b, which is yung y magiging outcome mo, x will be your independent, and b and m will be your slope, and b will be your intercept. Ginagamit na pala siya ngayon sa modeling because yung idea ng predictive modeling na you have a certain factor that would predict a specific outcome. So from that linear equation, pwede mo siyang translate into a linear modeling tool. So yeah, nag-transition siya from a simple linear equation na ganun, yung y is equal to mx plus b, into a statistical modeling tool pala.
Saka yung background ng machine learning, di ba? Doon siya nagre-revolve sa mga linear, ano na yan.
Yeah.
Tama ba yun? Understanding ko?
Linear, siya. Came up talaga siya sa linear pattern talaga yung first. Tapos nag-transition siya into the development of ideas na yung mga real-world problems does not depicts linear pattern. Kasi too complex kasi yung mga phenomenon. So may instances na you have to have a non-linear patterns. May mga patterns na hindi ko alam kung anong shapes nun or anong mga mga pattern styles. May mga logarithmic, may mga exponential. So nag-evolve yung statistics into a traditional na linear to something non-linear to capture the pattern of the data and to make inference out of it.
Ngayon, from college naman, bakit ka naman nag-decide na mag-graduate school pa?
Yun nga sir yung problema. kasi
Bored?
kasi wala namang nag-force sa yung mag-graduate school para maghigop ng ganito. Actually, it's a recommendation from my colleagues or my mentor in research kasi mas better daw na mas bata, mas okay na mag-proceed sa higher studies or graduate studies. And additionally, isa rin siyang requirement kasi sa teaching na hindi ka regular once wala kang masters. And may nag-open opportunities being endorsed by the administration to pursue scholarships from the DOST. And nag-align din yung interest ng sarili ko sa math from being a mathematics enthusiast educator to a graduate student and a researcher.
Pero di ba pag yung sa DOST na application, parang pinapapili ka nung options na kung saan mo gustong mapunta na school. Bakit
Yes.
ano yung mga nilagay mo doon sa choices at bakit nag-decide ka na dyan sa DLSU?
Based po dun sa DOST application ko, 3 school lang yung nilagay ko, like QP, Ateneo, at LaSalle. And based on some narratives na yung LaSalle daw is a research university. So doon ako nag-enroll kasi yun yung branding nila na they excel in research. They do research that is top tier daw in their field. So based on their branding, nag-enroll ako sa LaSalle para magkaroon ng research competency. Especially na nag-transition ako from being an applied mathematics researcher to a mathematics education researcher na ngayon.
Tapos anong mangyari nun pagka-graduate ng masters, magre-return service ka sa DORSU?
Yes sir, parang ganun na kasi nasa contract siya na we have to render at least 2 years siguro na return of service as part of our obligation sa DOST. So bawal pang mag-abroad or bawal pang maghanap ng trabaho sa labas.
Pero yun, nasa ka ba? Nasa tenure track ka ba ng DORSU or wala pa?
Wala pa sir, wala pa.
Bali lang, parang may teaching position na naka-reserve pagkatapos mo ng yung scholarship. Ganun.
Yeah. Na parang siya, like kailangan mo talagang tapusin yung masters mo to have that
Ano yung mga subjects, specific subjects na tinuturo mo?
Sir, I handled minor and major subjects. Yung minor is yung mathematics in the modern world. Math 15 ata yun sa amin. And yung mga major subjects is calculus for bioscience, for environmental science, and biology. I also handled calculus 1 to 3 for BS mathematics students and engineering students, factorial math for business math, and yung mga major sa statistics like statistical analysis and experimental design, mga ganun po.
Ayun, so I guess madami na tayong napagkwentuhan sa journey ni Dieter as a scientist. At siguro ngayon pag-usapan naman natin yung naging paper nila. So ang title nito ay Bridging the Gap, a Comparative Analysis of Traditional and Neural Network Regression Methods for Predicting University Entrant Performance in SU-AST Examination. So Dieter, first question palagi sa segment na to, can you explain your paper in one sentence tungkol saan ba ito?
So this paper was conceptualized because of the problem in the admission policy or admission rating of the school, because that time from 2018 to 2023, ang nagiging average admission rate for Dorso students is 54%. So majority or half of the enrollees failed to pass the entrance exam. And one of the parang underlying criteria of admission is entrance exam, aside from those mga screening protocols by course. And one of my interests that time is to really identify what factors drives the student success in entrance examination. So yeah, my area of expertise is on predictive modeling. So I want to predict entrance exam scores based on the three categories of factors. Like first is the socio-demographic indicators, second is the academic indicators, and the third is yung psychological and psychosocial indicators. So for socio-demographic, it involves like family income. Ano pa ba yun? Aside from family income, I have also the value of family size, mga parental educational backgrounds. For academic performance or academic indicators, I have the grades from senior high school as one of the continuous variable. The library entry estimates, and also yung INCAI and INCAT results nila during senior high. For my psychological and behavioral factors, tiningnan ko yung student motivation as well as yung behavior nila during the exam, their openness and intellect, as well as yung isang variable doon is examination anxiety. So it's just a study that identifies the pre-admission indicators as well as a survey for their psychological and behavioral patterns. So all in all, I have 18 variables that time being analyzed.
May question pala ako. So yung pinipredict mo ay yung magiging actual score, hindi yung pass or fail lang?
Oo, actual score talaga. Continuous data siya.
Ayos
Kasi ang item nung exam is I think 300. So it's between 0 to 300. Not a binary outcome na yes or pass or fail. So it's a continuous prediction. So yun nga, after cleaning the data, after data manipulations data imputations and data transformation. So I came up with two best machine learning algorithms to be used, yung traditional statistical tool na multilinear regression analysis and yung multiple layer perception neural network.
Ay, wait lang. Bago tayo go deep into sa research at yung multiple linear regression and neural network, siguro backtrack muna natin kasi sabi mo kanina 2018 to 2013, 50% yung pumapasa.
2018 to 2023.
Okay, 2018 to 2023. Pero before that, ano ba ang usual na passing rate?
The passing rate that time is roughly naglalaro lang siya from 75 to 64 to 75%. And after pandemic, yun nga napansin namin after pandemic, ang pinaka-latest is nag-down siya into 51%, which is kinda intriguing kasi anong problema? Is it the pandemic that brought this phenomenon, or is it really a crisis of exam preparedness among senior high schools teachers or schools? So we came up with a problem, and one of our solution is to really identify certain predictors of that certain phenomenon.
Sa ganung siguro question muna tungkol sa pagkuha ng entrance exam. Yung mga kumukuha nung entrance exam sa DORSU, mostly mga lang ba? Mostly mga taga Davao Oriental, or nakakakuha din kayo ng mga examis all throughout the country?
Meron din kaming mga examinees from outside Davao region. So yeah, we have examinees from Northern Mindanao, from Region 12 also. And sometimes may mga examinees din kami from Visayas. So the demographics is highly scattered. So yeah, pero majority of our examinees are from Davao region or from Davao Oriental.
Paano yung paano yung testing centers nun? Kailan nilang pumunta dyan sa campus, or may pwedeng, for example, kung taga Visayas sila, may designated ba na testing center?
May naman kami, sir, that time may extension campuses naman kami. So yung mas preferred lang nearby extension campuses, so doon sila mag-exam. Pero majority of the testing centers are being settled in the main campus. From the from the main campus siya binibigay yung results, I think. Pero yung testing center is pwede siya sa mga extension campuses.
So, ayun. So ngayon, nabanggit mo na nga problema yung passing rate. So na-curious kayo bakit ganon yung nangyayari. Ano ngayon yung methodology na ginawa nyo dito? So as you mentioned, may kinolek kayo ng mga social data, mga ganon. Paano nyo yun kinolek yung ganong klaseng data?
Kasi sir, meron kaming pre-admission data na ina-fill out sa mga students before the exam. So we came up with that data, like yung mga family income, family size, family background ng parents, saan sila nag-aaral, yung preferred course nila, mga ganun na mga pre-admission data. So that's for the socioeconomic indicators. For academic naman, we have access naman sa mga academic with the permission of the university naman to capture the data, to really understand the pattern. During naman sa exam, so we came up with those variables naman na about naman sa behavior nila during the exam, like anxiety, their psychological traits, mga personal traits before and during exams. So we surveyed them after the examination. So we came up with a validated adapted research questionnaire that measures student motivation before and after the examination, as well as their behavior.
Ilan yung sinurvey nyo?
It's it's a quota sampling. So ang aming naging quota that time is 350 students. But roughly,
sa lahat na yun ng courses, or parang may tina-target lang kayo ng course?
Lahat ng courses na po yun, sir. Lahat ng courses. And lahat ng courses. And sa main campus lang po yun na testing center. Hindi po kami nakapag-data gathering sa mga extension. Or yung mga special dates na tinatawag na mga hindi nakatake sa regular schedule. May mga special dates kasi, so hindi na namin sila na survey that time.
So yung 300 plus na yun, kasi kanina may naalala ko na may sinabi ka na 5,000 yung batch mo. So yung assuming na yung kumuha ng entrance exam ay 5,000 din, yung 300 ba sufficient number na siya to say na representative yun sa ganong kalaki ng population?
Yes, sir. Kasi in statistics, we have this criteria of setting specific threshold in sample size. So yeah, we have a 50% response rate. We set the response rate into 50%. We have the margin of error of 0.05, so the confidence of 95%. So using a electronic calculator, yung Rausoff, we computed the preferred sample size. So lumabas doon na at least 350 based on the 5,000 population.
Tapos paano nyo yun pipiliin yung isi-survey nyo na 300? Nagre-randomize kayo sa pumasa or parang
Hindi
may
siya
additional layer
random
mo na?
because it's too, sir, it's not ideal in our case. Kasi ako lang po yung researcher that time kasi individual kasi yung thesis namin sa math. So, with the guidance,
Wait, undergrad thesis mo to?
undergrad thesis ko po ito.
Okay, ayos
So, undergrad thesis po ito about machine learning. Yun nga. So, it's very challenging for me. One of the limitations of the study or maybe is using non-probabilistic sampling instead of yun nga, randomness, yung simple random or stratified. So, I came up with an idea na ikota ko na lang kasi in terms of manpower and time, mas okay yung quota sampling, which is actually, siya, mas ideal sa study ko. So, I set 350 students. I surveyed for at least 4 to 7 days ata. Ako lang mag-isa. Dala-dala ng mga questionnaire. Tapos ang init. Naghahabol ng estudyante. Pagkatapos ng exam, sagutan mo naman to.
Paano mo yun malalaman kung di ka lang niloloko ng mga estudyante dahil parang halimbawa pag gusto nila na umalis ka agad, sasagutan na lang nila ng kung ano-ano. Paano mo yun malalaman na reliable yung binigay nila na information sa iyo?
Isa sa protocol is may designated naman akong, ginamit ko kasi yung isang room doon sa department namin. Doon ko pinapunta yung mga estudyante to have them as a safe space to answer the questionnaire. Of course, provided with the informed consent and explaining the purpose of the study. And of course, yun nga, ini-ensure ko naman sa kanila yung privacy and security ng data as well as their right to withdraw.
So, ayun, medyo may background na tayo sa yung kung bakit ginawa yung study, kung paano kinulak yung data, ngayon, paano pumapasok yung machine learning dito.
Yung machine learning. Kasi actually, machine learning is a developing algorithm that time in our era, 2023 ata yun. Kasi doon yung nag-start yung emergence of AI. So from a traditional statistical tool like regression, isang limitation is capturing nonlinear patterns. What if yung data is not linear? What if yung data is exponential or logarithmic? So doon nag-lack or may limitation yung traditional linear regression analysis because it follows linear model or linear pattern. So what if yung data is not linear? So we came up with the idea na why not we omit or we study a certain algorithm that captures nonlinear patterns. And it's very ideal in real data because hindi talaga lahat ng data is linear. And nag-emerge yung machine learning, yung MLPNN or multi-layer perception neural network or yung neural network itself is from the word neural. So it mimics the ability of our brain to digest or to comprehend certain information. So from input, hidden layer and output, yun yung sa neural network, it mimics a certain analogy in our brain or parang kung i-represent natin siya para siyang brain natin na from our senses, it receives signals or information, it transmits to the neuron then the neuron analyze, then the neuron will provide a decision. So yung decision na yun is yun yung action mo. So yeah, parang ganun din yung neural network na yung input layer is yun yung magre-receive ng mga predictors or mga factors or tinatawag nila explanatory variables mo. Then ipapase niya sa hidden layer. Yung hidden layer naman mag-a-analyze ng pattern ng data. And yung hidden layer na yun may mga activation function yun na parang nonlinear din. May mga linear and nonlinear activation functions. Then yun yung magde-decide or magko-compute ng weights tsaka error ng certain analysis. Tas itatransmit niya sa output. So si output naman maglalabas ng predicted value. Based on the predicted value, may actual value ka naman using the training and validation scheme. So by subtracting the actual and the predicted value, magkakaroon ka ng error. So yun, ina-adjust yun ng machine learning or neural network na kung mas malaki yung error, ibabalik niya yung data sa start. So through backpropagation. So mag-a-adjust naman yung activation function or yung hidden layer based doon sa error and weights na binigay ng model. At until such time na magiging optimized yung model na to the point na magiging closer to zero na yung error.
May question pala ako dyan sa ano. Sabi mo kanina, non-linear yung kumbaga yung problem nyo ay non-linear pero yung ginamit mo ay
Linear
multiple linear regression. So bakit siya ganun?
Yeah, it's a challenge kasi one of the assumptions of multiple linear regression is the linearity of the data and the normality of the error. What we did is that sabi ko kanina we did data cleaning, data transformation. So since we concluded that the data is not linear, we transformed the data to fit in sa MLR algorithm. So by log transformation, ata yung ginawa ko dyan, naging linear siya. And then na-analyze siya using MLR. Yung original data na hindi siya na-transform, yun yung pinasok ko sa MLPNN. Which is hindi yun siya linear. So
may question go pala.
So yeah, we analyze a transform data in the MLR and we have a nonlinear data for MLPNN. So we came up with a protocol kasi na hindi pwedeng i-analyze yung data if a certain assumption is violated, like assumption of linearity, assumption of normal distribution, assumption of homoscedasticity, and more. So yun kasing nagiging limit ng traditional statistics or traditional linear regression. Ang dami yung assumption na dapat mong i-fulfill para mag-progress yung analysis. Hindi siya friendly in terms of linearity. Kaya pumasok dito si machine learning kasi willing siyang mag-adjust para sa'yo. Willing siyang mag-adjust para sa data mo to come up with a specific outcome or result.
Pero curious ako, bakit ka nag-decide na yung ipipredict mo yung actual score, hindi lang binary na pass or fail? Anong reasoning behind it? At hindi ba parang sinasubject mo yung sarili mo sa more uncertainty kapag ganun? Na gusto mong i-predict yung actual score at hindi lang siya binary na pass or fail?
Yeah, that's a good question, sir. Kasi yun nga, uncertainty includes may error, mga biases, uncertainties, kasi continuous data yung pinipredict mo. Ang MLR kasi, sir, is it's a model that produce continuous variable, continuous data. So kung ang gagamitin ko is pass or fail, ibang algorithm naman yun. Magiging
parang sigmoid something na siya eh.
Magiging logistic regression na siya na sigmoid function na 0 and 1. So magiging ganun na siya. So hindi siya fit in sa or interest ko na algorithm na i-explore. So that's why I fit the response variable, which is yung y natin, na maging continuous instead of maging binary.
Gaano ka-accurate yung nakuha mo na na result?
In two algorithms, nag-set ako ng dalawang parameters or criteria. Ang isang criteria ko is R-squared o yung coefficient of determination. So, based on the analysis, malakas yung predictive power ng MLPNN compared sa regression analysis. And in terms of error, I use the mean square error. Mas lower yung error ng neural network compared sa traditional linear regression. Because the idea is that it captures nonlinear patterns across the dataset.
So, dito, baka masyadong madami, baka masyadong madaming math terminology yung na-discuss natin. Siguro more on doon naman sa ano yung meaning behind these numbers? Like, anong mga nakita mo doon na factors na nagdi-dictate doon sa scores ng mga students na kumukuha nung exam?
Based on the findings, lumabas doon na isa sa pinakamalakas na predictors is yung behavioral reaction. So the way students behave during the exam is nakaka-influence talaga sa result nila. The more it is calm to a certain students to perform examination, the better their projected scores. Aside from behavioral aspect, lumabas din sa pag-aaral na yung senior high school grades is also a strong predictors of entrance examination success. And pangatlo is lumabas din sa pag-aaral na yung family income really influence entrance exam scores, because maybe the interpretation is that the more the family is wealthy, they are more capable of providing resources for their students or providing gadgets gadgets or any applications for their students to study or to have a better learning environment. And it's very evident in State U because we have an accelerating digital divides. Walang masyadong device, walang internet connection na maganda, walang access to better computers and laboratory equipments. So maybe not just the State U but yung mga high school premises, maybe resources is also a factor in terms of determining the entrance exam performance of students, not just academic.
Ibig sabihin ba nun yung yung mga mas, 'di ba, bumagsak yung passing rate from 70 to around 50% na lang.
50% na lang.
So ibig sabihin ba nun yung halos karamihan sa mga 50% yun na pumasa ay may kaya na maka-afford nung ganitong mga resources, at yung mga hindi nakapasa sila yung more on lower income households. Ganun ba yung nangyari?
Wala ring study na nagsasabing ganun, sir, by studying the trends of the passing rate. Kasi prior to that, wala pa kasing wala pang pre-admission data na na-establish sa school from 2015 to 2018. So nag-start lang siya, nag-operational yung mga pre-admission data from 2018 to 2023. That's why naka-extract ako ng data na ganun. So hindi ko siya masabing factor talaga yung socio-demographic or yung economic stand ng parents or yung family in terms of the success in schools or entrance examination.
Kanina nabanggit mo din yung yung grade sa senior high na malaking predictor siya dun sa performance. Hindi ba siya kumbaga parang expected na siya na relation?
Yeah, it's trivial naman talaga. The more you perform in senior high, of course it will translate in college. But then sinama ko lang siya sa model baka kasi iba yung trend, or baka hindi mag-significant. So that's also a notable findings if ever. So it's a trivial findings na the more you excel in senior high school, yeah, it's intuitive to say na you're going to perform better in college.
May dalawang follow-up question din pala ako dyan. So, una, yung how would you argue na realistic yung nagawa mo na model? At pangalawa, nawala yung ano ko nawala sa isip ko yung second question. Siguro yun na lang. How would you argue na realistic yung ginawa mo?
Yeah, it's realistic because in the first point is that there are indicators that is not self-reported data. Like for example, senior high grade, galing naman siya sa schools or may certain matrix to compute that one. And meron ding mga...
Naalala ko na yung second pala. Naalala ko na yung second question ko. May mga parts ba na, kasi di ba as we mentioned, trivial yung yung mataas na grade sa senior high, nagda-translate sa mataas na score. May mga parts ba dun sa study mo na parang na-surprise ka na opposite siya sa in-expect mo na relation?
Okay, yung parang hindi siya parang hindi siya
parang
aligned
counterintuitive siya na
hindi siya aligned sa
nangyari.
hypothesis mo, ganun. Parang hindi mo siya na-anticipate na Siguro, sir, meron ding instances na pumasok. It's in the case of the neural network. Kasi may ibang set na mga predictors yung MLR tsaka MLPNN. Sa MLPNN, pumasok yung variable na hindi ko na-expect, yun yung library entry during senior high. Kasi kinolek ko siya sa survey. It's an estimate na kung ilang beses in a week ka pumapasok sa library. Yung tinanong ko sa survey. And pumasok siya as a not a strong predictor but a relevant and significant predictor of senior high score for entrance exam success. So maybe the implication is that the more the students are reading books or accessing learning resources through the library, the more the more may chance siyang pumasa. But again, same with the results of the senior high grades. Intuitive rin siya. Parang expected naman.
Baka naman nagpapa-aircon lang yun.
Nagpapa-aircon? Nag-connect lang sa wifi, di ba? Or nag-baby time lang dun sa library. Kasi sir, sa amin, sa case sa Davao region or sa Mindanao, may mga library kasing walang access sa mga internet resources like mga closed articles, wala silang subscription sa certain databases. Compared sa ibang schools, mga private schools na may access talaga sa mga libraries online. So they got or they have their information sa library talaga using books and mga ganun. Isa din siyang factor na gina-consider in terms of modeling the academic success of students in entrance examination.
Would you expect yung ganitong results sa ibang state universities?
I'm not certain about this because the idea is that it was administered only in the pilot university in our university. So in terms of generalizing the findings would be difficult. But then in the demographic of majority of the students are somehow similar nang naman sa ibang state universities across southern Philippines, maybe it's somehow relatable. We have the same situation with other state universities here. So yeah, we can replicate, but we cannot see this the same with private universities like La Salle, Ateneo, or even NU, mga ganon. Kasi first they have better resources. Second is that they have a better learning and conducive environment. They are surrounded with senior high school na mga regional science high schools and way more competitive. And of course, they have a certain advantage in terms of technology, resources, and parental support.
Ayun, so I guess madami na kaming napagkwentuhan dun sa results. For anyone interested, check nyo na lang yung link sa description. Nakalink naman palagi, and of course, open access naman yung paper na to. So ngayon discuss naman natin yung more on behind the scenes ng research. So as you mentioned earlier, ito yung thesis mo. So can you share din paano yung naging funding situation ng study na to?
To tell you frankly, sir, walang funding to kasi in the first place, free education kami. So, yeah, personal talaga tong money. Second is that wala kasi dun sa DOST, I think, na may research fund for undergraduate. Parang wala. Meron ba?
Oo nga, no?
That time,
Parang
parang wala.
wala
Kasi
rin akong maalala.
parang master's lang ata, tsaka PhD
Ah.
may research grant that involves dissemination and yung outright grant for after proposal defense.
Mm.
So yeah, parang sa stipend lang, then yeah, mga book allowance. Ano lang sir, nag-save lang ako for this study. Nag-save lang kasi the first place, wala naman kaming tuition. Second is, may parental support naman in terms of finances. So yung mga stipend na accumulate, so yun yung ginamit ko sa data gathering.
Yung data gathering mo, yung survey questionnaire mo, printed talaga yan lahat-lahat. Hindi siya Google form or something.
Printed talaga yun, sir. Imagine 300. 300
ilang pages yun? Ilang pages at 300 copies yan lahat-lahat.
Dalawang pages at ayun, back to back, then 300 copies. Tas I think on average, nakaka-survey ako ng mga 70 to 80 students per day. Or 50 to 70, 50 to 70 students per day. That runs from day 1 to day 4 ng data gathering. So yun. Tas sabay
Anong course usually yung yung sumasagot dun sa survey mo? Mga batchmates mo din or hindi naman?
Hindi naman. Diverse naman siya. Kasi one of the undergraduate is, sagutan mo na lang to, classmate naman tayo. Tropa naman tayo. Pasagutan mo to sa relative mo na magpo first year, ganun. Sagutan mo to. Yeah, it's a diverse naman. Yun lang. I have data gathering protocols to follow. Kaya naging smooth naman. Pero there are challenges. Kasi aside from financial, yung time, saka yung pressure to defend your proposal or to defend your final paper, revisions ng mga panel, saka yung mga uncertainties during the data gathering na need mong i-communicate sa advisor if okay or hindi.
Ay, ito pala, curious ako kasi, di ba, from undergrad thesis, tapos na-publish mo dito sa Davao Research Journal. Can you share, malaki ba yung, kumbaga, ni-revise mo from the thesis para maging paper siya or wala masyado?
Yung formatting yung siguro, sir, yung from a full paper to EMRAD format, and some of the comments of the reviewer, yung pag-enhance nung pictures, kasi may mga pictures na na-attach na hindi masyadong clear, yung pag-improve ng discussion in terms of citing other authors, relevant authors. And yeah, yung main comment ng editor, si Doc Edison, na we have to have this with an international lens, not just local perspectives. So yeah, yun yung mga revisions na ginawa ko with my advisor.
Curious ako sa like sa implication or parang next step niya. So, ito, nakita nyo na yung mga ganitong nakita nyo yung mga ganitong observations or, to explain bakit bumaba yung passing rate. So, what next? Ano yung, kumbaga, next plans to do? Plans for this research?
So, buti na lang natanong mo yan, sir, kasi after nung defense ko saka mga in-house research presentation, invite kami with my advisor with the DepEd Davao Oriental to present the study during the management review. So, yun nga, mga principal yung andon, supervisor saka superintendent. So, we communicate the findings and they are very interested sa study to have a replication or to have a better exploration, kasi gusto nila Sandong School yung maraming nababagsak para ma-raise daw yung concern. Kasi yung study mismo is wala siyang objective na ganun na to identify certain schools na may maraming bagsak for them to have a targeted intervention. Second is, na-present din namin to sa local government with the help of the SK initiatives na may mga free na examination review yung mga sangguniang kabataan before the entrance exam. So they invited mga future first year students of the university to avail the free review of the entrance examination. And sinabi kasi sa findings na yung preparation talaga is one of the factors in determining exam success. So they come up with an initiative to have a free review. It's one of the product of our findings. And luckily, tumaas naman yung entrance exam rating as of this moment because of those initiatives by the LGUs.
Bumalik na siya dun sa pre-pandemic levels na 70% or hindi pa?
Hindi pa rin kasi nag-59 ata. Nag-59 siya this year.
Well, at least tumataas.
Hindi ako certain nung 59 but maybe nag-59 siya. Hindi ko na kasi na-contact yung head ng admission namin pero parang may narinig akong nagtumaas daw. Pero yun naman yung nagiging challenge. Tumaas yung admission or pumasa ng entrance exam, bumaba naman yung budget ng State U. So meaning, kahit gusto ng State U na i-accept yung mga estudyante, but then the resources limited, the budget is being cut off.
Hindi rin makuha lahat ng pumasa. Ganun ba yun?
So parang yung natanggal yung sense ng entrance examination pag hindi sila tinanggap kasi may limitation because of may problema naman talaga sa budget ng State U ngayon in terms of the manpower of teachers, availability of yung mga laboratories, computers, and even mga retention policies and admission policies per program and per college. So meron din silang sineset talaga.
Napunta siguro sa mga flood control yan eh.
No, parang ganun. parang dahil sa fuel crisis, maminusan daw yung budget ng State U para lang doon. Di ba?
Ay, nako. Ayun, so almost 1 hour na tayo. Kailangan na rin natin mag-wrap up at baka maging depressing na to na usapan. So,
magiging political.
And so before we let you go, Dieter, ano yung mga ma-advise mo sa mga aspiring researchers and also mga educators?
Siguro like kumustahin nila yung mga perks, peer nila, scholars, baka na-reject na yung mga papers nila.
Nakita mo yung meme ko.
Baka na table reject, baka nag-undergo na table rejection takas sa depressed. Kumustahin nila. Anyway, kidding aside, maybe my first advice siguro, sir, is to find the right advisor and mentor. Kasi importante siya in my case or in other case because may time talagang mas better yung makinig ka sa mentor mo compared to exhausting your efforts reading and attending seminars. Kasi may mga advices talaga silang maganda and may mga mistakes silang sinishare na pwede mong pag-aralan or pwede mong i-adapt to omit certain problems in the academe. Importante yung mentor, and of course, the second is maging aware sila sa mga issues ngayon sa publications like yung mga fraudulent publications, mga predatory journals, predatory conferences kasi isa yun sa nakakasira ng images natin as academicians. And madami ngayon na nagpapublish sa mga predatory journals just for fast publications in exchange for money. And parang parang raising concern siya. And one of our talk with the NRCP Division 2 is yun nga, maraming mathematicians ang nafo-fall under that certain malpractice in the academe. And continue doing science for the people. Just just be mindful na yung science is for the people talaga, and it should have a social relevance or social impact aside from personal promotion.
Ayun,
Yun,
so
sir.
speaking of personal promotion, ayun, anything else to promote?
Anything to promote. Iba yung definition ng promotion ko kasi. I would like to thank you, sir, for having me, inviting me to guest in this my first podcast guesting. Second is I want to extend my gratitude to Dr. Edison for inviting me also to be part of this of this conversation. Di ko sa ma-replyan kasi may pending pa akong nire-review na paper under his journal. So may utang ako sa kanya. So yeah.
Bayad utang muna.
Oo, bayad utang muna. And yeah, I would like to also to thank the DOST family for the support, and of course, hopefully I will be able to defend my final paper this August siguro. Para matapos na tong problemang to.
Ay, ano yan? Master's, yan? Final defense na yan?
Yes, sir. Sa master's thesis ko po.
Ah, nice.
Hopefully,
Advance congratulations.
Kamustahin mo na lang ako, sir, ha?
Kamustahin kita. Bigyan mo ako ng date ng defense mo. Kamustahin kita the next day.
Baka baka nag-breakdown na sa defense.
Ayun, so I guess hanggang dito na lang muna tayo. Maraming salamat kay Dieter sa pagpapaunlak na aming imbitasyon. At maraming salamat sa lahat ng nakinig at nanood. See you everyone next week. Madami pa tayong pag-uusapan na research na ginagawa ng ating mga Pinoy scientists.
The opinions of podcast creators, hosts, and guests are not necessarily reflective of the official stance of the Pod Network Entertainment, its hosts, or other network programs. The content created by the people behind the podcast is personal and not meant to harm any religion, ethnicity, group, organization, company, or individual.